Hi, all the great minds there. I am Dr. Ankita Katre, and I am an INSPIRE faculty here in Center for Modeling and Simulation. So this INSPIRE faculty is the grant given by our government of India for all the young researchers like me who want to have an independent career after a few years of their PhD. So my journey in science actually began after when I finished my school in Jhansi, and after that I went to study basic sciences. I did my bachelor's in science in electronic science. I chose that subject, which you could think as of an applied field of physics. After that, I was sure that I want to pursue more and understand more, to study more science. So I chose to pursue masters, and that's what I did in Pune University. So I did MSc in electronic science from Pune University. And during that time, actually, my specialization was in embedded systems. And while studying that, so that's basically you fabricate some devices, you fabricate basically some electronic circuits, and you deal with the ICs and chips. And at that time, I started to feel that there is more to that which needs to be understood, and that's what I wanted to study more, and that was my motivation to pursue PhD. So I went to Germany. I was awarded with a Max Planck scholarship for my PhD studies there in Germany, and at that time I shifted my focus to more to the core physics problem. So from the electronics and the circuits, the chips, what they are designed, they are basically the materials, the semiconductors, silicon chips. Maybe you have heard of those things. So I decided to understand from the atomistic perspective how these materials behave, and what intelligence we could impart in these materials itself to have to advance in our in the nanotechnology and semiconductor technology. So during my PhD, I was involved in a problem of thermal transport in materials. So when I say thermal transport in materials, why it is important? There are two reasons. We are all the scientist community is looking towards a renewable energy source and trying to convert some waste heat into the reusable form of energy. So this thermal transport is basically, if I try to use the waste heat, such as in the automobiles, there is a lot of waste heat. So if we try to use that waste heat in the usable form to again drive the electrical circuits in the car, so that is a motivation for doing such kind of studies. There is another motivation, such as your mobile phones, your other electronic devices, which heat up if you are using it for a long time. So that is a problem everyone has encountered, and we do not know why and how can we get rid of this heat, and that is where again some work is being done on the materials perspective. So how can we reduce such kind of heat, which basically damages our phone, which is not good for our health also. So those kind of these are the motivation for my work, and to understand this particular property of thermal transport in materials. There are other properties which could be understood in the materials, such as for different applications, such as for solar energy, even for batteries. We, again, taking the example of our cell phones, we know that our cell phones are getting slimmer and slimmer, and one of the reasons is that because our batteries are also reducing the size. So all these kind of applications have a very interesting and very elaborate background of the material scientists working on those constituting materials. So after my PhD, as I said, I was mostly involved in the thermal transport in materials. I did my postdoctoral studies in France, in the National Lab in France, and there I was. So as I say that I'm a computational material scientist, so it doesn't. So what I look at is also trying to understand the properties from the computational perspective. So we try to solve different theoretical models, and with some parameters for a particular material, and from that background we try to predict the properties of that material. So I was working on developing the computational codes for such kind of studies, which is also a very interesting and very needed sort of work in the scientific community, and there have been there has been some work on that too. So after finishing my postdoctoral studies, I returned to India, and as I said, I got this INSPIRE grant from Government of India. So I'm working here now as a faculty, and I'm continuing my work in the same field, and I want to explore more to understand some other properties of materials, like as I said, the solar energy. So there are a lot of interesting materials, interesting properties of the materials, which are very important and very technology related, which the scientific community is trying to answer, and I'm also doing the same. So to all the great minds there, I would India really needs a good focus of such good students in the science, so that we all could flourish in the world. Thank you.